JKB back with another episode. Today on the show I'm doing something a little different. Normally I have notes, I go over the notes and cut footage together, but Bethesda gave me Ghostwire Tokyo early, so I'm going to be talking over the gameplay footage and giving you my feedback on how I feel about the game after the first two chapters. So starting out in the footage here, you'll see some of the combat. This game is remarkable in terms of its combat. I would probably say it stacks along the lines of Metroid Prime type combat. It is kind of tricky at the beginning. You'll notice that you're using your hands a lot in this game, and I'll get into that later into the review. And I'm not going to spoil any of the main story in this video. So what you're seeing is essentially a bit of a side mission and then just some open world exploration. Right now, I'm doing a side mission where this is where it gets crazy, guys. It's crazy. Right now, the side mission is requesting me to follow around a haunted doll around the city. It's open world, I should point out. This is at 1080p, 60 frames per second, recorded directly off my PlayStation 5. This is coming to, PC and just the PlayStation 5, and eventually, hopefully, Xbox in about a year's time. You'll notice right here that you've got these whiplash sort of effects that lets you jump to the top of the buildings. You've got your ability to see where you have to go next on the map, so you can click that at any point in the time. It's sort of like an echo device that he shoots out of his hand. You'll see me use it quite often in this video. But you'll also notice right now that I'm doing a lot of vertical scaling of buildings in the game. It's something I didn't even know about, because I should point out that when this was given to me, I had only seen the reveal trailer of this game, so I knew nothing about the game going into it. And I guess I can say at this point, because this is just a preview, not really a review yet, this is just the first two chapters. This is my thoughts on the first two chapters, I should say. And I am blown away by this game. I'm absolutely blown away by the game. Everything that I experienced so far has been incredible, and I can't wait for you guys to play this. I obviously, only spent about 7 hours just fooling around with this. You'll see more of the combat on screen now with what I was talking about, using your hands. So let me get into the combat. The idea and the premise of this game, I kind of want to keep private still, and I want to talk about it because it's so unique. You can see right now I'm ripping a core out of a ghost. It's insane. The premise of this, I guess I can give you the bare bones. The idea of the game is you're kind of a Ghostbuster in some sort of weird way. There's a lot more to it, but you're going around Tokyo, and your job is to save spirits and take out spirits. And you do that using your special abilities. You might call it magic with your right hand and your left hand. Again, there you go, right there. You see some of it on screen now. It's hard to explain unless you experience it for yourself. When I started the game, I felt very confused on exactly what was going on. The idea is that there's a ghost that has possessed your body, and you can use his magic abilities, and it's so ridiculously over the top at the beginning that you think that this game is going to be something you haven't played before. It's so unique. I got that sense after the first 5 minutes when I saw what the story was. Right there you saw I did a spell that sort of breaks curses on items in the game. You use the right analog stick and you copy what it's doing on screen. Those things feel incredible to pull off because of the story itself that you're going on. So at the moment here, there's a bit of a touching side story where you had to track down a weird cursed doll that was floating around the city, and you discovered that it was attached to somebody's spirit, and you'll see that I go and take care of the rest of the mission after talking to this sort of ghost that's sitting in front of me. Now, I should also point out that the combat is a lot like Metroid Prime. Now, if you haven't played Metroid Prime, the idea of this is you've got the left trigger that's going to lock on to the enemies, because this game is very difficult to use just the right analog stick to hit the enemies. It would be very difficult. So I thought about this last night. How would I explain the combat in this game? I would explain it this way. It feels like Metroid Prime, but it's like an on-the-rails shooter where you control the rails. I don't know how else to explain it. The idea is that you're always going to be snapping the targeting system onto the ghosts, and they're going to be moving in classic video game fashion. So they have certain patterns. You'll be able to hit certain people twice before they step out of the way, so you can't just, hit the attack button constantly on them. You have to pay attention to this. So it's got a bit of a strategy when it comes to that. Then, of course, there's tons of different enemy types. I'm pulling up the map here. I'm kind of revealing a little bit of the map in this, so if you don't want to know the map size, you might want to just skip over this little part here. And I'm going through some of the menus here so you could see some of it. You've got the database tab, which shows the usual stuff, tutorial and your items and stuff like that. Then you've got your missions tab that's going to let you see what mission you're on. And of course, again, I'm not going to spoil any of the main game, so don't worry about that. So, talking about the combat once again here, you've got special abilities, as I have a stroke, that you're going to be able to unlock as you get deeper into the game. Now, in the bottom right side of the screen here, you notice there's a tornado, a green tornado. So the idea of this game really is very spiritual, obviously, because you're a ghost. And by the way, you can float in this game because you have ghost abilities. So you can see I'm floating down to the temple here to finish that side mission. But getting back to the side there, well, it's disappeared now, but you can switch between your attacks. So it's sort of like a earth, wind, fire type thing, where it's water, it's wind, and it's fire. Now, I might have more abilities. I haven't unlocked them. I don't know how deep it gets. The moment I have 3. The idea is that the combat's set up so certain ghosts will be more vulnerable to fire or the water or the wind. And the idea is you're switching it on the fly. There's a weapon wheel where you can quickly switch between those abilities. Now, I should also point out that there's the ability to switch by swiping on the touchpad. You can also do the R1 and R2, and you can also pull up the weapon wheel. So there's multiple ways to switch between every single weapon in the game. By the way, I'm recording this in one take, so I apologize if my voice goes out or I say something silly, but you know how I am on the show. I wanted to get this out there right away so you guys can know this is a game that I'm going to consider probably going to become a classic, and this is a series that I had no idea I would love. And right now you're seeing on screen something absurd. I'm collecting spirits inside of a paper doll. I mean, this Japanese mythology in this game is so fascinating. It pushes you to continue playing the game. Now you'll see some of the missions here where I'm going to collect something. I don't know exactly what I was doing here. I was looking for side missions. You'll notice that the map has a fog on the left side of the screen. So it's not opened up immediately off the bat. You have to finish some of the main story to be able to unlock the map completely. The map is gigantic. I don't know if I show it at the end. Maybe I do. But you don't actually get to see it all, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's covered, but it is ridiculous. I think at this point I was trying to figure out how to use the navigation system, and it was a little confusing to me until I fully understood it. Now, you'll notice I'm running towards that target now. Also, you'll notice that I smashed these glowing objects in the world. Those are your ammo. So you'll be coming across these objects in the world where, you're running out of ammo. You got to run over to them and attack them. You can also shoot them from a distance to collect some of the ammo. Of course, the game also has a whole skill tree and tons of other abilities you can unlock and abilities for your weapons. Now, here's some of the enemies. You can see some of the combat. This is... Well, you'll notice that I sort of snap onto them with the left trigger. And that's what the game's about. And right now I'm pulling a core. You get more experience points if you can defeat them by pulling a core out. The idea is that your powers will reveal the core of the ghost. And I know, this is insane. And you'll see little openings on them. Like this one here has a little tear in them. And if you kill them too much, or shoot them too much I should say, you can't get the core out. So you want to kind of pay attention to the level. See right there, I missed that one. Now you also have a shield that you can pull up with L1. And you'll notice that I don't do it too often in here. That's because I totally forget about it. So there's some combo system things attached to that as well. The combat, I gotta say this again, is also a lot. It feels like kung fu magic. It's really impressive. When you start it out, though, it's got a slight learning curve. But when you get into it, I should say that the combat director of this game, the creative director of the combat, is the dude who designed the combat for the new Doom. So if you like Doom and the way that goes and smashing through demons' heads and all of that stuff, this game has that combat in it. That's what it feels like. It's Doom meets Metroid Prime in its combat. Now, the city itself is super detailed, and this is one thing I wanted to bring up, that this game is true next generation. I know there's a lot of people saying like, oh, I wish this was on PlayStation 4. I honestly don't believe it would be able to handle it. It is so detailed with such high textures that I am blown away at times. I know that a lot of people were talking about the gameplay trailers saying that they didn't know anything about this game, but I'm here to tell you, after about 7 hours, first 2 chapters, I am blown away by this experience. It is a game you must play, especially if you're into Japanese culture or the Japanese mythologies. They're all in here. There's tons of different ones. Now, I didn't do any research on exactly what that is yet because I just wanted to get this out there and talk about it. Here's another side mission, by the way, that's based on Japanese horror. So I guess in Japanese horror there's a type of ghost or a type of demon that literally is an umbrella that jumps around with 1 foot. So I know that's something that's in the real world, and they've taken that and put it into this. So there's tons of mythology if you're into that type of thing. It is over the top in terms of its silliness, but also it can be scary at times. Now, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, how scary is the game? Is it, because, of course, the creator of this game and some of the creators of the game have been involved with, like, Resident Evil and some of the Tekken combat team, I believe, and you've got the Doom creator of the Doom combat in here, and the ideas are ridiculous. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Some of the creative decisions in this game are what makes you want to play the game. There's so many choices that I just would never assume would be in a video game. So, you know how you're collecting those spirits on screen? You probably see me do it. They're in the background there, that blue little patch. You go up to it, you collect the spirits, and it's sort of like the Matrix. You got to send them back to the real world. So you find a telephone booth to do this, and there's somebody on the other side who's going to collect the spirits for you, and that's how you get some XP. You'll notice right here I'm collecting some of them, so I absorbed 95 in that one go there. There's over, as I almost choked to death, there's 100 or 200, I believe, 200,000 spirits, excuse me, that you have to collect in the game. And I'm going to play this game until I've completed it, because it's just one of those games you want to do everything in the city. Now, let me talk about that. Oh, by the way, here, I was trying to figure out this sort of like little puzzle here where, there's some stealth in the game. So finally I figured it out. I don't know if I show that or not, but I figured out that you have to sneak up onto some of the ghosts. There's stealth involved. I should point that out. The stealth feels amazing in the game. It is a Bethesda game, so I'm sure they took some of their notes from other Bethesda games, maybe. I don't know. But there is definitely a lot of different gameplay types in this game. You've got the combat, you've got the exploration where you're looking for things around the level. You'll notice that some of the buildings in the background, they look like you can scale them. And guess what? You can actually climb a lot of the buildings. You'll see some of the parkour that I'm doing here. Kind of feels like Mirror's Edge if you've played that game. So there's a ton of games actually mixed into this, but I have to stress this. It's so unique on its own merits that you have to play this game. I can't say that enough during this video. It's one of those games that comes out of nowhere and you don't know what to expect, especially if you haven't watched any of the trailers. And the story is, to me, is amazing. It's over the top, of course, but it's something that drives you to want to know what happens to these characters. There's mystery involved, of course. Tons of side missions that involve very, at times, crude and very brutal situations with humans. It sort of dives into humanity's dark side for a lot of the side missions. I don't want to give away too much, but, you know, sometimes you're looking for, like, haunted dolls, or you're looking for, like, murdered children, and it's like, okay, that's what we're going to go into, and of course it fits the tone of the game. This game's not for kids, let's just say that. Especially when you have giant demons coming after you, and I'm pretty sure I figure out this little side mission in the next couple of minutes here, so you can see some more combat. But I should also point out that you can, like I said, it's a vertical game at the beginning. I was talking about how you can go up the buildings and stuff, and that's where you're going to find tons of collectibles, and I'll get into that now. There's tons of collectibles in the games that you turn into. I don't want to give this away, but there's vendors around the city. I don't know if I show any of that in here, but there's these hilarious vendors, and when you see them in the game, you're going to laugh out loud. They're hilarious. You're going to collect items and bring those back to the vendors and get XP and get money. There's shops you can walk into, so if you've played Yakuza, you know what I'm talking about here. You go into shops and you buy, you know, Japanese food or dog food, which is used for side missions. There's dogs all over the city, which is quite adorable. And right here, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I capture this thing? And this is where I figured, I believe, you know, you got to sneak up on it. It's sort of teaching you about the stealth. As I was saying, there's collectibles. You can, of course, you're going to be using food that has abilities, so you might eat some like sushi or whatever the hell it is, and you'll gain some sort of stat boost. So that's in the game as well. You'll notice that when I use that sort of echo device, it shows you objects you can interact with or ammo on the map. So that's something you definitely want to upgrade into the game later. Right there, that was me actually gliding. So you can glide in this game from rooftops, and I think you can actually upgrade that over time as well. So the upgrades are ridiculous. So it's going to make you stronger, and those ghost abilities are just going to get stronger as you go into the game. Right here, I believe, is where I figure this out. Finally, I'm like, oh, okay, absorb. So boom, grab the item for the side mission, and I'm going to bring it over to that ghost and complete this. I'm trying to think what else I can say about this game in the closing couple of minutes here. I think that there's certain games that come out that a lot of people don't consider playing, maybe because of the fact that this is obviously it's a Japanese game and it's heavily influenced by Japanese culture and mythology, and maybe that's not your thing. In saying that, though, I feel like everybody should experience this game. It's one of those events in gaming that come out of left field, and it's such a blast to play in its combat. It's amazing collecting everything in the map, leveling up your character, and then the story just keeps pushing you forward. You want to know what's going on, and let me say this, the map is ridiculous. At one point, I got into the subway system, and you're in these shops underground, and it just keeps going and going and going, and you're trying to do a mission. Oh, here's one of the puppies. You can actually read their thoughts. You can pet them, of course. And when you give them dog food, they're going to reveal a little special surprise for you. It could be like money, or it could be like an item. So, getting back to this one thing I wanted to bring up as well. The game can be played in English, or it can be played in Japanese with voice acting. Of course, I'm going to highly suggest you play this game with the Japanese voice acting. The only part of that that's a little frustrating is obviously there's subtitles on screen, and sometimes you want to read those, and you have a hard time doing that because the game is ridiculous. And yes, so my final thoughts here is the game is amazing. First 2 chapters are incredible. This is, at this point, a must-play for me. I'm going to have a review coming out. I don't know exactly when. They'll let me know soon. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, ask me in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.